to start by thanking John Scarney. John Scarney was sensational. I just met a man over there who is in a class all by himself, and his name is Bob Eberly. Bob Eberly is one of the great, great singers. He is and was and always will be a big, big, top attraction. Bob Eberly will be with me today, along with Sondra Phillips, who is the protege of Virginia Capers. When Virginia Capers doesn't do the leading part in Raisin, she has Sondra Phillips go on for her, and she is a beautiful lady, gifted and talented, and with a very talented and charming family. Maybe the whole family might come on, right, Sondra? Right. And we'll meet them all. We've got many surprises, but I want to say welcome. Yours truly, Joe Franklin, hosting every morning and every night. And there's one man that has never been on. We've had every star and superstar, but I think my favorite star, and he is lovable, he's my favorite teddy bear, and his name is Andy Devine. And when I found out that Andy Devine was in town just for a brief period, we made it our business to bring him over here. He's got a certain message, which he'll talk about later, but for the time being, Mr. Devine, can I shake your hand and say...
Just call me Andy, Joe. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's my pleasure. You grew up, I think, on that Universal lot. I love those old Universal. And everybody always says you were in All Quiet on the Western Front, but that's a mistake.
That is a mistake. I was in the Road Back, which was a follow-up. I auditioned for the Road Back, for All Quiet, and didn't get it. But I did. Matter of fact, I did the audition for George Cukor, who was a dialogue director on All Quiet on the...
So now we straightened it out that The Road Back was the sequel to All Quiet on the Western Front, but written by the same man.
That's right.
And my guest is Andy Devine. Andy, first of all, I've been told you want an opportunity to thank the many people who wrote to you when you were sick.
I certainly do, Joe. I was very ill a couple of months ago, and I received over 14,000 pieces of mail.
Much from New Yorkers.
Terrific amount from Brooklyn and New York. And I just want to thank them. I want to thank them for their prayers. I want to thank them for everything, because it was very heartwarming to know that there was that many old people around that still remembered me, you know?
And the kids who love you.
Yes. And I'm here to kind of plug Medic Alert, which helped me during my sickness, because it gives a description of all your ills. I have diabetes and also leukemia, and then I got pneumonia on top of it. It gave them my blood type, and I had 16 transfusions. And for this thing, I have worked with the Medic Alert, and we're setting up a foundation. It's going to be the Andy Devine Foundation. Be kind to kids, because there's a lot of youngsters in the United States today with hidden illnesses, and that can't afford to have a Medic Alert bracelet.
We'll get into this at great length, but I want to let you know, my friends, that Mr. Devine serves as a goodwill ambassador for the non-profit Medic Alert Foundation International. And what motivated your interest, you say, is your particular ailments.
My particular illness.
And an emergency does sometimes crop up, and having specific information as indicated on the bracelet, that would sometimes...
Within 30 seconds, a doctor can call this number, collect, give your number, and get your whole history.
So how do doctors or ambulance drivers or whoever serves, how do they feel about it?
They have been alerted, and they know to look for picking up a patient. And with these kids, it'll be for all things, like bee stings. People are allergic to penicillin.
Right.
And with youngsters, you have retarded and children that have, as they call, hidden ailments, epilepsy and one thing and another, that they can pick these kids up. They don't know where they belong or anything at all. And by looking at this bracelet, any place in the world practically, and they'll give you the whole dope on it.
So a person's specific medical needs become recognized in one instant.
And if they want to donate to the foundation, they just write Andy Devine, Medic Alert, Turlock, California.
I want to say that again 9 times before you go home, Andy,
yes,
right?
Good.
Whatever you say about medicine, you've been through it. You probably got some case histories to support the value of Medic Alert.
I can tell you everything about it. and what it's done for me and what it's been.
My guest,
Because 5 weeks ago,
Yes.
I spent 5 weeks in intensive care,
well,
you know.
whatever,
And here I am, I just getting home from Greece,
right?
had a wonderful trip.
Whatever the doctors or Medic Alert did for you, they did it well because you look so
I
fabulous.
feel great, Joe.
I could just do hours talking about Andy Devine movies. I happen to be a movie fan, as you might
Well,
know.
great,
There's one movie that made me cry. It was called Law and Order,
yes.
about Wyatt Earp kind of cleaning up Tombstone, and you, as a young man about to be hanged, that was one of the most poignant. You were so simpatico.
Thank you. That was with my favorite actor, Walter Houston.
Right.
And I was just a youngster starting in the business at that time. That was about 1930, 29, 30, along in there, right after I'd made The Spirit of Notre Dame. And I did that. I played Johnny Behind the Deuce, the first man to ever be hung according to the law in the territory of Arizona.
You've got great recall.
Yeah.
Do you have
Just
one
great.
favorite Andy Devine part?
Yeah, I think in the movies, the part of Buck in Stagecoach, the driver,
The driver.
with Big Duke, was one of my favorites. And then, of course, in television, the character Jingles was a big favorite of mine.
Where's Guy Madison nowadays?
Guy is in Hollywood. He's been in Italy making spaghetti westerns, and he's here.
The Stagecoach was that was probably the movie that put big budgeted westerns on the map, wasn't
That's
it?
right.
Because before that time, there was,
And never won an award.
Right.
Never won an Academy Award.
but it was the turning point for John Wayne.
Oh, it was Duke's big thing because he'd been doing the Three Musketeers out at Monogram up until then.
That was the end of the Three Musketeers.
That was the end of the Musketeers.
Up until Stagecoach, Andy, they used to figure that westerns were for the Saturday afternoon matinee
That's
train.
right.
Andy, you're from what state? Born
I
where?
was born and raised in Arizona,
Right.
and I came into Hollywood in 1926 when I started in the business. My father was taken sick. There was no hospital in the little town in Arizona. They took him, he died in there, so I went in there and I decided I'd look around for work. And it was one of those things that I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard and a fellow stopped me and said, do you play football or basketball? And I said, yes. He said, come with me. They're casting at Universal. I went out there and stayed for 21 years.
Is there any story behind the most identifiable voice in the world?
I fell when I was a youngster with a stick in my mouth.
Is that a true
and,
story? I read that once. Yeah.
Whether that had anything to do with it or not, we don't know. After that, I stuttered very badly, and my mother used to sit me on my lap, her lap, and talk with me, and it's just a voice that never changed, thank goodness.
It's a fabulous voice. Did you enjoy the years on the Jack Benny radio
Oh,
show?
I did.
I think the most famous catchphrase in radio was "Hiya, Buck! Hiya,
Yes.
Buck!"
Yeah,
That was
you
great.
do have a memory.
That was
Yeah, I was with Jack from 1935 to 45, and I think I learned more about timing working with this gentleman than anything that I ever learned in the business.
Did you get to work with him socially too?
Oh,
once in a while? I
yes.
mean, was he,
Yeah, we were great friends, and you work 5 years with a person, and
You talk,
I
Andy.
was with him when he came into New York and found Dennis Day,
Right.
and that was right after Kenny Baker had left our show.
He stretched a gag. That business
Oh.
about being stingy or being the penny pincher, that ran for years.
Years, yes. And his feud with Fred Allen, was so beautiful.
Great mileage.
And
I think his writers deserve a little credit too, though.
they do. Jack, if he had a real good gag coming, if you ever listened to any of the old records, and there was a wait, Jack would hit the line, and then he would depend on when he would come in again, and he knew just when to come in at the right time. It was an education in itself.
Now there's a big revival of interest in all these old radio
That's right.
shows.
Well, I was with Lum and Abner, for about 3 years when they went from 15 minutes to a half-hour show. I played Mose Mooch the barber on there, and they were a great great outfit.
Most people, Andy, go from stage to movies. You were in the movies.
I went from the movies. I'd had about, I guess 30 years in pictures before I came back here to Jones Beach to do Showboat for Guy Lombardo, which was just about 20 years ago, and was supposed to do it this summer when I got sick again back east and had to miss it. But the last 18 years, I've been pretty busy doing nothing but stage work, and it's very rewarding and a lot of fun.
You had the part that Charlie Winninger played.
That's right.
I went to
yes.
see that show. I was just breaking in as a reviewer or a critic, and I came back on the air and I gave my capsule version. I said Andy Devine. No, I said Andy as Captain Andy gave a divine performance
Yes.
in Showboat. You were sensational in
Yeah,
Showboat.
thank you. It was a great part, and I've played it, at least once or twice every year since. But it was great, and had the pleasure of working with Edna Mae Oliver, who was in the original.
Right.
Played Parthy. I worked with her in Romeo and Juliet at the first Romeo and Juliet at Metro when they made it.
With Leslie Howard
Leslie Howard.
and Norma Shearer. Was anybody critical that they would put a comedian into a Shakespearean?
No, Barrymore said that a little cowboy wouldn't hurt Shakespeare, and he was in it. I had the dressing room next to John.
Can I tell you were better than Norma Shearer and Leslie Howard? I shouldn't go that far, but you were sensational in that movie. I loved it.
Oh,
It was
thank
a good
you.
picture.
Well, I made a couple out there that I liked, like Red Badge of Courage. I had a great part. And then I was in the original Star is Born
With Janet Gaynor.
with Janet Gaynor and Frederick March. And we made that out there.
She was here about a month ago, Janet Gaynor. On the
Yes, she's lovely, isn't she?
show. Great lady.
She won the first Academy Award,
You practically grew up with Lou Ayres. Somehow I get the feeling
Yes.
you and Lou Ayres on the
Well,
same.
I made a lot of pictures with Lou at Universal, and Spirit in Notre Dame, and before that, We Americans, and I did one with Lou and Mae Clark, and at Universal, and
Your list of movies, Andy, is staggering. It's just.
I made 178 features.
Wow.
And then with the television and the silence and everything, it comes pretty close to 400. That's a lot of guitar picks,
That's a lot of guitar picks. How many animated voices for the Walt Disney cartoons? did
Oh,
I
I've
get?
done several for them, and I just did a voiceover with Peter Ustinov for a Japanese film company.
That's fantastic. Were you in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance?
Yes. Yeah, I played the cowardly sheriff for John Ford. First time I ever worked with John Ford was in 1919. I was a kid working on a ranch in Arizona, and he came over there to do this picture, and I worked with him there.
Have you thought about a book?
Yes, and I'm just getting ready to start on it.
The Life of Andy Devine.
Well, I think I'm going to call it, have the kid with the squeaky voice step back, because when
Fabulous title.
when sound came in, that's what they all said. Get the squeaky kid back,
What a voice. Have you done any TV movies, Andy? You must get a lot of
I've done a
opportunity.
few, yeah. I've done a few, but I've done mostly dinner theaters and out on the road, and the pay's good, and they treat you well, and you go to work around 7:30 at night, and you're through at 11, and you can play golf or do what you want to up till the evening comes around.
And you like
again.
golf.
I love golf. I haven't been able to play too much of it here lately, but I love it.
I think you must like hunting. I either read in
Yes.
Clark Gable's book or Carol Lombard's book that you were their
well,
favorite.
we hunted together,
Right.
Clark and Carol and I. We and Mrs. Devine, who we will have been married 43 years, this the 28th of this month, and we hunted together at the same duck club for years and had a ball. They were wonderful friends, both Carol and Clark.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, Thursday, the day that this program is being seen, happens to be the birthday of Mr. Andy Devine. That's a pretty happy
Eberly will be
coincidence.
71.
71.
And they've been wonderful. And this is also my 50th year in the business.
And you've seen many people and many stars come and go, and
Yeah, and I never really met one that I didn't like, as Will Rogers said, because everybody I worked with it's been a delight. I've never really and truly been with an unhappy company.
Mr. Devine started to tell me before the show started about some of the typical reactions that sometimes happen when you walk into a room and somebody says, "This is Andy Devine." What's
Well, the one that George Murphy used for his book, "Didn't You Used to Be Andy Devine?" And then since a lot of reports have been out, I'll run into somebody at the market and they'll say, "I thought you were dead," you know. And
or aren't you the fellow who used to sing in silent movies?
Yeah.
That's the one Rudy Valley gets.
Yes, and you get a lot of them, but it's nice that they remember you. Like I said a while ago, that when I was sick, I got 14,000 pieces of mail.
And, you know, I'm always torn when I sit with somebody like you. The motif on many talk shows is to talk about air pollution or women's rights or penal reform. But when I sit with Andy Devine, I just want to talk about the movies, because that's what
good.
people love,
well,
you know?
that's what I was raised on, you know.
Right,
and,
right.
I started in the silence and came through the whole thing, you know, and I had to give up the kind they're doing now because you can't ride a horse without any clothes on, you know.
No, it's tough. It's tough. It gets itchy. Gets itchy.
It does.
That's the next book after this book. You can't ride a horse without any clothes on.
That's right.
And Mr. Devine wants to make it emphatic again that he wears a medic alert emergency bracelet. Give us a little more background.
Well,
Whatever it is, Andy, I want the whole country
All right. This is on, you wear this, either this or a medallion, and it's for if you have any disease. Like I said, I have diabetes and leukemia, and it gives your blood, and for people that are allergic to anything, bee stings, and there's one thing that's very prevalent, people that wear contacts lenses.
Right.
If they're in an accident, the lens is left in the eye, it'll damage the iris. So it would be very necessary to wear a medic alert bracelet. It costs you $7 for life to belong to this, and what it can do for you, you can't believe. And that's why I am so thrilled to be part of this thing, because there's so many kids in the country today that can't afford $7. And by your donations to the Andy Devine Fund at Turlock, California, these youngsters will be helped.
How do you spell Turlock?
Turlock.
And if anybody wants to write to me, I'll forward all the mail directly to Andy
Wonderful,
Devine.
Joe. That's mighty
Franklin,
nice of you.
WORTV, New York 10018.
Good.
Andy, someday we got to do hours. I could analyze every one of your movies. Right.
Wonderful.
You know how many times I saw you as Roy Rogers' comedy, not comedy relief, but featured comedian? You must have done a lot of years with Roy Rogers.
I did 2 years with Roy and Dale.
Right.
And as we say, we were the second man through the door, you know.
Yeah.
You're usually, I mean, with Roy, why, Roy went through, then there was Trigger, and then Bullet, and then you came through, you know.
I bet Gene Autry got a little bit jealous.
Well, there were two camps. Gene had Pat Buttram in his camp at the same studio at that time. But we were all great friends. We were all
And
great
Andy's
friends.
gang, was that
Andy's
Buster
gang,
Brown TV
Buster
show?
Brown. I did 52 of them, and I did 118 Wild Bill Hickoks.
118.
Yeah.
Jingles.
Jingles.
Andy, do me one favor. Tell me, just show me once how you greeted Jack Benny on the radio.
Hiya, Buck.
One more time.
Hiya, Buck.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any audience. If we did, I mean, any studio audience. We have an audience at home, but if we had a studio audience, they'd be yelling and shrieking. This is the big, soft-hearted, gravelly-voiced favorite actor of millions, and his name is Andy Devine. And most of all, he wanted to thank the New Yorkers who sent him
I
get-well
do.
cards.
I want to thank them all for their prayers and their good wishes, and let them know that that's what's made it possible for me to be here this morning or tonight.
Another good guy role for Andy Devine. These words beginning with this announcement for Siemens. See Siemens first for the best furniture at low, and I do mean rock-bottom prices. Let's watch. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Joe.
Beautiful. got to ask my very favorite singer, Mr. Robert Eberly. Bob Eberly, how do you feel about Andy Devine?
Boy, I'm telling you, it was such a warm, the both of you talking, and your terrific memory, but when you talk to Andy Devine and he gets finished telling you all the places he's been, I feel like crawling under the coffee table somewhere. He hasn't missed a trick. And he hasn't changed. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
You've met him before.
I met him when I was with Bing Crosby out in California in 1935, and he hasn't changed one bit. Success has certainly never changed his wonderful head.
Let me tell you briefly where Bob Eberly has been. He's been selling tens of millions or maybe hundreds of millions of records in reissue form, and of course modern versions, but in reissue form this could be a sample of one of 50 gold Bob Eberly records. Just a sample.
Thank you.
I want to tell the countryside, every time Bob Eberly's name is mentioned, everybody says, the best band singer ever. But then what happens? You know what happens, Fred? Perry Como and Dick Ames and Frank Sinatra, they chime in and they say, we were pretty good too. We can't deny that, right? They were,
Yeah.
But they were good colleagues.
Oh, yeah. You know, I was thinking that a lot of the parts of show business, there's a lot of enmity and jealousy and envy and all that stuff, but not with the singing department, not in those days anyway. I mean, Frank Sinatra couldn't have been more pleased that Perry Como or Dick Ames or I got a success in some record or something. And he still hasn't. I was thinking today that I think Frank is very much maligned by a lot of the things that people almost know, and they don't get all the facts straight, you know?
I'll tell you one thing, that Frank is a great fan of Bob Eberly. Frank is...
well, that's very nice to hear.
You've heard it. You've heard some
Yes,
of his quotes
have.
about
Yes,
you, that you inspired him.
You know something, Joe? You would be terrific in the FBI because you remember every single thing that was ever said about anybody.
Frank Sinatra has been on my show many times. There are only two singers that he speaks about, and one is Tony Bennett, and one is Bob Eberly.
I'm afraid to tell him I'm not Italian. You know, maybe the whole thing will get down the drain.
That'll start plugging Perry Como. What might have been your first impression the first time, let's say, you heard any of those people sing, when you first heard Hames or Como or Sinatra? Did you feel they'd go that way?
Oh, yeah.
You knew it? You knew it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes. I remember Perry Como with Ted Weems, and I heard Dick Hames sing with Harry James Band and Frank Sinatra right off the bat. There's something there that's undeniable, and their whole success is not any slightest bit of a surprise.
No. Some people, Bob, without mentioning names, because it's not important, some people were lucky that they were around during the war. For some reason, they weren't drafted. You were taken away at the height of your...
Yeah, I know. But I saw so many people that were hurt so much worse than I that I don't consider that at all. And thank God I'm still around here. And I must say first, too, that I was thinking how old I was until I saw Andy Devine, who was 10 years older than I am. He looks 10 years younger, and he just got finished getting sick. I can't stand him. Jeez, he still looks terrific. I'm going to get one of those bracelets or whatever he's got.
We're going to get that.
See if it'll help me.
He's off to New England to enjoy some of those autumn colors out there. He
Yeah,
deserves,
that is beautiful this time of the year, yeah.
deserves every happiness. So there were no band singers being born today, because there were no bands, I guess. That's
No,
probably...
I know it. It's really hard for a young person today, I should think, you know, really to get started. And for a young couple, if they get married, where are they going to live for $800 a month and all that stuff? Everything is very tough on the young people today.
That's what they paid, $800 a month in those days when you were a band singer?
For $800 a month.
Or less.
Or less. No, I was thinking an apartment
Oh,
for
today.
$800.
The rent today.
Where are they going to live? That's what I meant.
It's
Well,
rough.
the salary I got when I first joined the Dorsey Brothers band, I was getting $35 a week. And I had to send money home, which I very well could afford.
Who,
at that
who
time.
might have been the first ones the first singers to step forth and
Well, you know,
become singles in those days?
Well, Frank Sinatra didn't come around. That was 1935. Frank, I remember singing about 1939.
Right.
And
Did it
Dick
take-
Ames, the same time.
Did it take courage to leave the band and go forth as a single, or
I never did, but I guess it did. It took more than I had, evidently.
you stayed loyal?
I stayed loyal with the band, and it really wasn't so much my loyalty, I don't think, as I was tickled to death to be where I was, and I was a little bit afraid of stepping out into the world maybe at that time.
My very special guest is Bob Eberly, who has a brother.
Yeah, Ray sang with Glenn Miller's band, yes. I just did a show with Tex Beneke and Helen O'Connell out in Cleveland, up in Michigan someplace too. And the audience really was I was just telling Fred Weck about it. The first half was all Glenn Miller's tunes, and then the second half, Helen O'Connell and I sang.
Right.
And everybody was laughing and crying at the same time.
You've got the enviable situation going, Bob, where you can do the current routine, and I know you pack them as Bob Eberly all by yourself, and you can join in the golden oldies
Oh, yeah.
revivals, so you've got your choice
Yeah.
of where and when you want to work, practically.
Yeah. It's a very... God's been awful good to me with this nostalgia thing, you know, because you've been doing that all your life. I mean,
started when I was
I know you did, Joe.
3 years old, I was doing Memory Lane.
No, but I remember being in I say it every time I come on with you, but in a little radio studio with a bunch of records, and the studio wasn't much bigger than, you know, an armful, much bigger than a phone booth, really. And I remember you and I sitting at the desk doing your radio show.
My
that
first-
must have been 1938 or
No, I
9.
started in radio in 40. I started as Martin Block's record picker in 1947.
Yeah?
And he would say to me all the time, I want to do a Jimmy Dorsey segment. You know, he used to do it in quarter hours.
Yeah.
But he would say, make sure that Bob Eberly is on all the vocals. Remember
Yeah.
Martin Block?
Martin Block, yeah, sure I do, yeah.
Make
He
believe
was with
ballroom.
me, or with a band rather, at Meadowbrook, the day the Japs attacked Pearl Harbor. That, you know, very terrible day. And every time I used to see him after that, he would go right back to remembering that outstanding day, you know.
He was great. Everybody used to think that he ad-libbed. He had that faculty of making everything sound ad-lib, but he really used to read everything from the script. But he had
But
that-
he had a very good sense of timing, too, you know.
Great.
And a personal way of speaking that, of course, everybody knows that.
Right.
You know, I guess one of the reasons I'm here, don't you, Joe?
I would like you to introduce Mr. Fred Weck, as if I don't know who this man is, but if you would give the official introduction, we're going to let the countryside know why
There's
Bob
a
Eberly.
beautiful auditorium, or whatever you might call it, gorgeous showplace on New Jersey Garden State Parkway, and it's called the New Jersey Arts Center. And Mr. Fred Weck is the director over there, and we have a heritage show coming up this Saturday, October the 9th, and then American music styles from the pine coners to the fife and drum corps to several, I can't even see all the names over there, Joe.
This Saturday night, all I
Yeah.
know is that Bob Eberly will be in charge, and if you want to give us the history of the center, or of Bob Eberly, or of this Saturday night, Fred, this would be very much in the public interest.
Well, Joe, thank you. The Garden State Art Center is located on the Parkway in New Jersey and operated by the people who run the Parkway. And they've come up with an idea to make sure that this big, beautiful 5,000-seat auditorium is well used at all times. And that is, they provide free programming for school children and for senior citizens, disabled veterans, and the blind. And a few years ago, in order to generate some revenue so they could provide for these programs, they came up with the idea of heritage festivals. They started with the Irish because they felt if you could get along with the Irish, you could get along with anybody.
We're going to take that. We're going to take that sitting down, Bob?
I guess I'll have to. I
Okay.
can't get up. The mic is on.
Right, we're clamped.
I can say that because I'm married to an Irish girl.
Right.
But the Irish Festival started the parade, and we've been able to have the festivals grow every year, where this year we are having 12, with the climax, the American Heritage Festival, this Saturday, Joe, and it's an outdoor theater, and the program will actually start at 3 o'clock in
And
the
what's
afternoon.
more American than the big band era?
That's right. But we're also pleased to have a number of other types of acts. We're going to have the New Jersey State Champion Ramapo Valley Sweet Adeline Chorus
That should be
perform.
nice. I'd like to hear that.
Girls who sing barbershop.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like
and then look great at the same time.
Ladies, not girls, ladies.
That's right.
I apologize. Continue.
Well, I think they'd take the girls,
Okay.
Joe.
That ancient fife and drum corps, they're going to perform in the show too? Fred?
Yes. Joe, in addition to the stage program, there will be morning activities out on the plaza in which we will have dance groups from the different ethnic communities that participate in the heritage festivals. And to start the whole day off, the New Jersey Colonial Militia Ancient Fife and Drum Corps from Morristown will start out both the morning program and the stage program.
Will Helen Forrest be with you this time?
No, Helen's got strep throat. She's got to stop singing for about 7 weeks now.
We just got word.
Yeah,
of
we
that,
just got word
this
about that,
week,
yeah.
Joe.
I wish you were going to be there. She's a heck of a gal.
Well, you can dub her in from the
Yes,
the
we'll bring her
78
in, yeah.
78 RPMs.
Yeah, she would be good with Andy Devine. They could do
Right.
A
double
duet,
yeah.
Hiya, Buck. You like that? Hiya, Buck.
Hello, Helen.
Fred, how'd you enjoy meeting Andy Devine?
Fantastic. He said that he never worked with anyone he didn't like, and I can see why. He's a very gracious gentleman.
Oh, yeah, he brings out the best, like you said Joe does, too. That's true. You can make an enemy of a person in a couple of minutes if you want to. I think this will be a very, you know what we were talking about earlier, Joe?
Yes.
That the things the way that it is today, that there's so much divisive between the young and the old, and the Christian, the Jew, and the black and the white, and everybody's looking for somebody to get mad at. And this is kind of a festival where they bring in Ukrainians and Irish and Scottish and Scandinavian and everything else. It's going to be kind of a binding thing, I think. And the American Heritage Show Saturday is going to be.
You know what I
like
think?
that.
I'm glad you decided to become a singer, because
Yeah.
there is nobody ever could have sung. How many million-selling records, Bob, do you figure your voice appeared on?
Gee, I don't know.
It's hard to know, but there-
11 or 12 or no more than that, I guess.
Maybe 24.
Yeah, that's probably right. You know better than I would. I swear you would. Joe.
Green Eyes.
Yeah, and Tangerine and the Breeze and I and Amapola and Yours and Best Me Mucho and I Understand and High on a Windy Hill and
What a medley.
yeah.
Wow.
Very rewarding, like tickle of death to have been there.
What a medley.
Bob,
Yeah.
I was thinking, hearing Amapola, I had the pleasure of dancing while you were singing, and I always got an extra pinch or two in while that beautiful
You did,
music
huh?
was there.
I thought I noticed you out there.
So
His
there's
experience,
certain advantages.
he's got his experience still the best teacher so far as acquiring poise and assurance.
I think so. I think that if like I've been singing in this business, like whatever you might say, for 40 years now, and if you don't learn something by that time, it's it's too darn late. I try to take advantage of all the experiences I have and learn by my mistakes. And I always look back and I remember people, how nice, like anybody that says they're a self-made person is making an awful mistake. You know, there's no such thing, I don't think.
But Bob, you had that assurance. I watched some of those movie shorts you made with the bouncing ball with Jimmy Dorsey, and you were 14 or 17, and even then you were so confident. You were so.
It's because I was out of my mind, I think, Joe.
Bob, I want you to meet a couple of my friends. You too, Fred. I want you to meet a great, great lady of the stage, and then later on we'll bring in her family if they want. Sondra Phillips. I'm chatting here with Bob Eberly of the big band era, and he made more hit songs popular than anybody I can think of. And I'm sitting here with Fred Weck, who coordinates. Suppose you tell Bob the job that I did out there last year. Was it nice?
Yes, one of the privileges we have with the money we earn from these festivals is to put on free programs for senior citizens, and we had the privilege of having Joe with his entourage.
We brought
a
out
year
Irving
ago.
Caesar and Dolly
Yeah?
Dawn, and
Did
we
you?
Now, Bob has sung at those
Yeah, I
programs
sang it.
as
Isn't
well.
that a thrill, Joe?
to look out and see oceans and oceans
Oh,
of people.
my God,
As far
yes.
back as you could look are people. It's
And you know what's a sight there? When you look from the stage and see the green grass and the
Yeah.
sky beyond it, looks
Right,
like you're
right.
already there.
My recommendations always include America's #1 honeymoon and vacation resort. I'm sure that Bob Eberly has appeared at Mount Airy Lodge.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's the best, right?
Yes, it is. I can go right along with you, Joe. That's a great place.
They've got everything. Mount Airy Lodge in Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania. Let's watch. We did our New Year's Eve special recently. We starred Virginia Capers of Raisin, and Miss Capers wanted me and the whole countryside to meet her protege and Discovery and Standby. Her name is Sondra Phillips.
Yes,
Yeah.
hi.
Sondra,
Glad to be here.
we missed you. I met
It's
you.
been about 3 years since I was on your show with Adam Wade.
Right. Were you in a soap opera then, or whatever it was?
I was going to acting school at that time,
Acting
and Adam brought me up here.
Right.
Yes,
So you were his protege,
at that time, yes.
and now.
Now I'm Virginia's protege.
Isn't that nice?
Maybe one day I can sponsor somebody. I'd love to.
How
do
does
that.
a lady like Virginia go about sponsoring a protege? What's some way that it
Well,
manifests?
she's very encouraging. She just she lets me go on for her.
Right.
She sees to it. She lets management agree to let me go on. Also, I was on the muscular dystrophy
Right.
show with her for Jerry Lewis,
Right.
and it was great.
And when they announce to the audience, as they do with this printed sheet here, it says here.
She announced me.
Right. It says that, no, I mean, in the play at Raisin, where
Oh.
they say that Virginia Capers will not go on tonight, but Sondra Phillips will be on tonight. What's the reaction from...
Oh, the reaction is quite down. People don't want to come to see understudies. They pay their money and they have a right to feel that way. But my responsibility is not to let them go away dissatisfied.
That's a tough spot, though,
Right.
isn't it, Sondra?
Oh, yes.
Right,
That's
Bob.
tough,
I
boy.
do. I go out there and I give it all I got.
Yeah.
And about
when I finish,
About
thank
midway
God
during
they
the show,
stand.
you know, they're happy.
Oh, it's not even midway.
Right.
I just go in and attack right away. You know, and I love it.
What a lady, huh?
You're awful easy to like, though, you know? I mean, really, I mean it, though.
Tell my children that.
Yeah, I try to tell them. They told me to get lost. No, I know how kids are, but I can see you going on the stage and, like you say, you don't have to attack. You just go out there and look at them once.
Well, I love stage. I started out as a singer. I've only been in theater for 2 years, but I'm happily doing it now. But I started out as a nightclub performer about 14 years
You
ago.
know what you are? You are a star. When you look at that lady's face, it's
Yeah.
it's radiant and it's
doesn't it?
alive.
Yeah, yeah.
You are a star. you know?
Thank you.
Does your mother like you, too?
My mother loved
Has
me.
she ever been up from 10 Top Alley or wherever it is down
Oh,
there?
10
South
Top Alley.
Carolina?
That's where I was born, in Mullen,
Yeah.
South Carolina.
How do you know that, Bob?
She told me, Joe. That's
I
why
wrote
asked
a
you when
book.
you
I
weren't
wrote
here.
a book about it, all
Where-
the way from 10 Top Alley.
Was
Yes,
was that what you would call of humble beginnings?
that's an humble
It's
beginning.
about as humble as you can get isn't it, down there. I married a girl from Tennessee, and man, I never heard of black-eyed peas and corn cones and jowls and all that. But do you have like jazz down there too?
Oh, I think that's all over everywhere now.
Is it?
Yes, soul food that's what we call
Is that
soul
what that's
food.
soul food?
Yes.
Yeah.
But is that kind of sharecropping beginnings? And
Well, in South Carolina, there's a lot of sharecropping, but at that time, it was a lot of tobacco and a lot of cotton.
Right.
And my grandmother just took me right on into the fields with her, and we traveled from year to year.
Yeah.
In the summer, we went north, and in the winter, we went to Florida.
Yeah.
And each year, we were going back and forth working. We were called migrant workers.
migrant worker. But I'm asking, though, was it a matter of perseverance and determination to better yourself?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Definitely.
So that book, Bob, that could be an inspiration for a lot of people.
You
when
bet
that
your
book-
life, yeah.
Right, Bob?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of people that need hope and some kind of inspiration. Something
Well,
to
there's
shoot
no
for.
word such as no,
No,
can't.
That's right.
There's no such thing.
And anybody who wants to sit down in some corner and have the world come to them is going to have a long wait, aren't they?
Right. You
gotta
gotta go
work,
get it, and you
and
gotta be prepared when you get out there to get
Don't
it.
you think too, Sondra, that if you suffer along the way, that it's kind of a badge and it puts another sparkle in your eyeball
Well,
too? I think.
suffering to a degree makes you appreciate the
Yeah.
good times and
Yeah.
the good things.
You being a millionaire all your life, though, you never had that jazz, so you don't know.
I'm wealthy because I'm spiritually happy.
Are you?
Yes,
You
and
look
I'm
it, too.
physically healthy.
Yeah. Has your mother been up here? Does she like it?
My mom died a year
Oh, she
ago.
did? Oh, I'm sorry to
But
hear
she was happy when she died,
Yeah.
and my grandmother's very proud
Sure.
of me.
Your grandmother, she's still around?
My grandmother's alive. She went
She
to
probably knows who
Philadelphia
I am,
for
your
a whole
grandmother.
week and went to the show every single night. She
Yeah?
wouldn't miss a performance.
That's where it's playing now, Philadelphia.
I closed for Virginia and Philadelphia this past week. And
What a-
we open Tuesday
Right.
in Pittsburgh.
Do you? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
You
Yes.
played Pittsburgh once.
Yes, I was there. Your grandmother saw me in Pittsburgh, as a matter of fact. She never misses a thing.
You know the old joke, you spent 2 weeks there one night, right?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Sondra, I'm very happy to say that we've got the advance tape of Sondra's new record. I want to just
Have
hear
you?
Yes, I'm trying to go into production myself.
Are you?
Along with my co-writer, Kasala.
which happens to be your husband.
Kasala?
Yes,
When you get
Kasala.
mad at him, what do you say? Kasala?
Oh, what do I
Get in
call
here.
Fred, you want to do me one favor? Bear this lady in mind if she's ever available to do a show at the Garden State Arts Center.
We were at
She
the
was
Garden
just
State
there
Arts
in
Center.
Racing,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Were you?
I did the
Great
matinee
job.
there for Virginia. Yes.
Isn't that a beautiful place?
It was great. I loved it. It was cold one night, though. It was very cold.
Yeah.
Yes, but we loved it anyway. It was my first experience working partially on the outside.
It was cold, but Sondra was
I
warm.
was going to say, I'm sure you warmed it up.
The audience was warm, too. Let
That's
me
good.
tell you, it was great.
What's this song called, Sondra?
The first one we're going to listen to is called I Am His Earth.
Let's have a sample of I Am His Earth, and the singer is a very exciting lady. very appealing and everything. Are these a couple of scenes from?
Yes. Oh, that's the nosy neighbor I play right there with Virginia. That's my normal role.
And we show these on the air as we
Okay.
play
And that was from Ragtime Blues.
the voice of Miss Phillips. Bob, your music.
That's great,
yeah.
honestly. You've got such a great sound.
Thank you. That's the
really.
very first tune that we wrote together.
You and
You
your
and
husband.
I wrote it
Kasala.
on the subway, would you believe, on my way home.
Really?
Yeah, the rhythm, something about the rhythm of a subway just makes me creative.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Not me. No, I don't get creative. I think a long distance running and all that stuff when I'm on the subway.
Yeah.
Sondra Phillips was not exactly an overnight star or an overnight sensation, but she made it, and she's also found the time, Fred, to raise or to rear a charming and a talented family. And if we bring in your husband, maybe we'll bring in the kids too. Would that be nice?
Well, we can't force them, but we'd like for them to come.
If they're in the mood.
Yes.
Okay?
They were in there putting makeup on for the last hour. You
Right.
kidding?
We don't-
Oh, yes, my daughter does it
Where's
all the time.
Kasala?
He'll be here following these
Oh,
words. Let's watch these words. On the dais, starting over there, we have Mr. Frederick W. Weck, good friend of mine, Cultural Center Fund Administrator for the New Jersey Highway Authority, Garden State Arts Center. And this Saturday at what time, Fred, is the...
At 3 p.m., we will have the American Heritage Festival featuring Mr. Bob Eberly.
Next on the panel is Bob Eberly, who is Bob Eberly, right?
yeah, right.
Can't
right.
say any more about Bob except that that's his name.
Yeah.
And when
Speaks for himself.
you say Bob Eberly, is that name known in all areas of music, Mr. Kasa Allah?
Well, yes, because big band and jazz is very closely
Yeah.
intertwined, yeah.
You're smart. You know that.
No, he knows that name.
Kasala.
This man is the husband of Sondra. He's
Yeah.
a noted arranger, conductor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
writer.
say. How nice it is that, as talented as you are, Sondra, if you didn't have somebody to make your arrangements and thing, that's a big deal, man.
Oh,
today.
yes. We fight a lot when we're arranging and writing,
It shows up in the arrangements I'm having, doesn't it?
Makes it more fiery.
but we will always get what we want.
Yeah.
You put pressure on the coal, you get diamond, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What is current music or current jazz? What is current? What is of the moment? What sells? I want to do a sample of your album, but how did you know this would take off the way it did, Kasa?
Well, Art Blakey liked, I worked with Art for about a year and a half. I was a fan of his when I was young. Speaking of like situations
Yeah.
like Andy Devine, I was a fan of his when I was young. I used to listen to his music, and lo and behold, a few years ago, I found myself working with him. So this is, I believe he had told me his favorite of mine that I had written, because I wrote a few things for him, and he decided to record it. So,
That's a thrill and a half, isn't it?
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
oh yes, I'm very thrilled.
And I don't think that all the work that you're so-called falling into now was an overnight thing either. I'm sure you worked your brains out too to get where you are today. A lot of
Yes.
disappointments every day almost, and then
Oh, yes, it's kind
that's
of,
part of it.
yeah. Well, my father was a pianist too, and he came up through vaudeville, ragtime piano,
Yeah,
that type of
did he?
thing. Yeah.
That's great. That's a nice way, nice background.
Let's have a sample of one of those selections. By the way, what do you think about Bing Crosby coming back to Broadway for a 2-week run? That'll be interesting.
No
huh?
kidding. I didn't know
Yeah, he's
that,
going to be
Joe.
here in December with a 2-week. First time in 45 years, Bing Crosby on the Broadway stage.
Oh, boy.
How's his voice without a mic? I mean, he's got to be pretty well amplified, I guess. Same
Oh,
as-
yeah, I imagine so, yes. But he's got people won't even be breathing when he's singing,
Right.
so, you know, he's not going to have any competition as far as room noise.
$25 a ticket.
Oh, my
They'll probably be sold out before they start.
Sure
Well,
they
Broadway
will.
is booming this year,
Right.
last year. I think it's bigger than it's ever been.
And
I'm
this-
looking forward to come back to
And
Broadway.
this family is booming too. And here's a sample of Mr. Kasa Allah's Third World Express. We have met a panel of true originals. Everybody here an original.
Well, it's
good
good
time?
to be here. Yes. I tell you, Joe, I want to just say, this is one of the greatest formats that you can have.
You're the greatest.
You
See
know,
you tomorrow
this is
with
great.
Mark Wilson, the great magician. You know Mark
Yeah,
Wilson?
yeah.
And the man who invented the shadow, Walter Gibson. And most of all, you. Have a good day and a good night. And
Thank you
Thank
again,
you again.
Joseph.
see you in Raisins. See you with the Garden
Right.
State Arts Center.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you,
Thank you,
Joe.
Joe. Thank you.